Hey everyone, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining me for another video. Hopefully today it will be interesting. It might be different for you to actually comprehend, but I'm going to try and make it as simple as I can, okay? So, yesterday in my question and answer video, I had mentioned that Jesus did have a father, but it was not this rebel God father that's mentioned in the Bible, the Hebrew scriptures. It is not Jehovah, which is the English version they came up with for this male rebel God, who is actually Satan. So, to make it clear, Jesus's father would be this male entity God that is called Baal in the Bible. That the Midianites, the Canaanites, the Egyptians, different um, ethnic groups or nations worship this God. And this was fine with Mother because of the fact that this God did father her offspring. You may wonder, why did she even need like a God to father her offspring? Well, energy cannot be created or destroyed. But the more Mother creates, the less energy she has to herself. So she created this essentially male entity son, God, but he wasn't actually a son until, creation and whatnot. So he had always, not always, but he had been in existence for a while and he had power. So Mother can create on her own, but when it comes to her actually taking an actual piece of herself and reproducing it, like a physical representation of herself, she does need another power to combine with to create this bigger power that is herself. Hopefully that makes sense. So basically, this power that she had within her to recreate herself all along in the Bible is referred to as the Word. This is essentially truth, which never changes. It is her being, her essence, which is why it has always been with her, and it could be transferred into another life form via an energy transference between this sun god and mother. Now, this is the reason why in the Bible, Baal and Baal worshippers are actually looked upon in such a negative light, because the Bible was set up to glorify this rebel god and hide the fact that mother existed, and also mother's contributor, you could say, to her offspring would be demonized and made to look bad and slandered, which is exactly what happened in the Bible. Baal was anything, and I'll use the term Baal because that's what people know him as basically, but he was actually known by other names depending on the culture. In Greek, he was actually, the comparison would be Zeus. In Egyptian, he would be known as Set. And Mesopotamia, yeah, Mesopotamia would be Hadad. So, fun fact, because Greeks actually worship Mother initially, the term Jesus actually means from Zeus. And because Zeus is the Greek comparison to this Baal or sun god, that's where Jesus got his name, because essentially that is his father. Okay, so why did Mother decide she needed an offspring and to get this word out and actually physically manifest this entity outside of herself? Well, between the first and the second creation, when that essentially the fight happened, it wasn't a fight yet, but Mother knew that things were going downhill because of her counterparts' actions. The sabotaging in nature, creating these animals and whatnot that would destroy other animals and humans, and creating things that would torture, like fleas, biting flies, that type of thing. She knew intuitively what could happen. So this is when she came up with a plan to create this offspring. So if something were to happen to her in the future, there would still be an entity with all her personality traits, her love, her views, her thoughts, her emotions. There would still be an entity that would be able to rule. So this is why she actually did this. So she did this between that first creation and the second creation. And that account is actually in the Bible. It's in Revelation, hang on, Revelation. Yeah, okay, sorry. Revelation 12, 1 through 17. That's where that account took place. Many people don't really understand the meaning, but it was what took place between this rebel god, mother, and her offspring's father, essentially. Where in this account, the offspring's father is actually called a god at that point. So yeah, that's where he was a god. And I'll read that. But first, what I want to do is I want to explain the breakdown, because the concept of Jesus is not just this single entity. In order for a powerful spirit being to get to a human form, a lot of dividing and breaking down has to be done. If this is not done, it is not physically possible to be human and a god or a powerful spirit being at the same time. It cannot happen, which is why when they say in Genesis that these sons of God came down and had sex with the women, it is not even possible. That was an outright lie. It's not possible. It's a universal law. There has to be a specific breakdown in order for a spirit being to inhabit a physical body. Okay? So don't get too excited. I made a little chart thing. Okay, don't laugh. I'm not that computer savvy or whatever and make graphs and all that on the computer, but this is what I did. So basically, this is going to explain things to you, hopefully. So here we have God, Mother, and this is the Word, which resided in her at all times from the very beginning. Over here we have the Son, and I put it in quotations because, like I said, this male entity, Lord, was not always the Son. So these two became lesser energies. Mother became a lesser energy female, and father became a lesser energy male, but they combined their energies together in order to make the offspring, which is right here. And that offspring would have been androgynous. So there we have the beginnings. These two combined their powers in order to make this one. Mind you, energy can only be transferred or absorbed, but not destroyed or recreated. So they transferred this energy into this offspring because, like I said, mother knew that she needed a backup plan because of this her counterpart's rebellion. So from this offspring, that offspring then splits again into a male and a female energy. And even at this point, still cannot inhabit a human physical form. So these have to split as well. So here you see the male energy actually split into Mary and Jesus. Here you see there's a female energy, which got split into two physical beings as well. So I put the numbers here because these numbers are actually, each of these beings has this number and they know their number. So the number is determined basically by the positions of the planets, the stars, the moon, the sun, all of that. And basically it's the birth dates, the horoscopes. This determines what number these actual people and these spirit beings are. And the spirit beings have obviously different powers and levels. So hopefully that clears some things up. Why I don't just, I say Jesus because that's how people relate to who I'm talking about. But the concept of mother's offspring is this. And Jesus would be right here. Okay? You may wonder why you never hear anything about the female part of her offspring. If mother was hidden in the Bible, do you think the female offspring would be glorified in the Bible as well? Just ask yourself that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is read that account in Revelation and explain it to you. And it's Revelation chapter 12. I'll start at 1. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. So the sun was literally embracing this woman. Who would be mother? That lesser energy that she created to blend with the sun, basically. With the moon under her feet and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it. She gave birth to a male child, which it wasn't a male, as I said, it would be androgynous, who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. But her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, in which she is to be nourished for 1,260 days. Now I'm going to pause right here and explain this. So basically, this would be mother. This is when she was trying to manifest this offspring. And this rebel god, or as here it calls Satan the dragon, found out about it and wanted to destroy this offspring. Now, if you notice here, it says the child was caught up to God and his throne. This actually is this sun god or Baal. Baal took the child and protected it basically. And also made a place for mother essentially to go to and rest so she could recover. This is what this sun god, or Baal, as you know him in the Bible, did for mother. He was loving, he was kind. He was anything but what he is portrayed as in the Bible. There was no child worship of the firstborn or anything like that. That was actually this rebel god that approved of things like that, which is why one of the plagues for the Egyptians was that the firstborn would be killed. That did not come from Baal. That actually came from this rebel god, that whole concept. So, yeah, this God actually looked out for mother and her well being. He was not evil, he was not mean. And that's why he was called God here. And mother approved of these different nations worshiping him because she also was very appreciative of what he did. He didn't have to do that because, like I said, all humans and spirit beings have free will. He could have said no, but he didn't. He understood the greater challenge that was at hand and willingly did this for mother. So now we're going to continue in chapter 12 and verse 7 of Revelation. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them day and night before our God. And they have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. For they loved not their lives even unto death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short. When the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. This androgynous offspring, not male. But the woman was given the two wings of the great eagle so that she might fly from the serpent into the wilderness, to the place where she is to be nourished for a time and times and half a time. The serpent poured water like a river out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with a flood. Notice the devil always likes to use water to destroy spirit beings. There's a reason for that. It's also why people are baptized in water. But that's another subject. Okay, it says, but in 16, but the earth came to the help of the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon had poured out from his mouth. Then the dragon became furious with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And he stood on the sand of the sea. So we see here this great fight that happened when Satan was thrown down to earth did not happen at 1914. It happened between the first and the second creation. Like I mentioned, I think in my fourth or fifth video that I made. So this is what happened. Basically, there was this scuffle, and Mother, basically, after all this had happened, had to take time back because this used a lot of her energy up to recover. And in this time, this other male entity, Lord or God, whichever you want to use for this sun energy God, took care of things for her while she recovered. So that's what happened, if you wondered. And I know this seems really out there and really bizarre, but the thing is that the truth never changes. And Mother always has a backup plan and a way for her will to always be done, no matter who opposes her. So that's what I wanted to bring out today. Um, Hopefully that was simple enough of an explanation. I tried to make things simple so they can be easily understood. There's a lot in here, and sometimes I have to gauge between how to present it and actually what my viewers are ready to hear. So that's what I kind of like fight with within myself. So yeah, that's what I have for today. I hope you're doing well. If there's any questions, as usual, you can always email me or leave them in the comments below. Okay? I hope you have a good day. Once again, the universe loves you. Everyone is watching and cheering for you guys to actually know what love is, show it, and display that to the rest of the world. Okay. Take care. Bye.